Well, hello everybody. It's Jeff from Home Renovision DIY going live today. We're here to talk about something that's rather time sensitive, right? And we're dealing with inflation issues today. So I thought, before we jump into our live Q&A, that I would do a little bit of chat, a little bit of a, maybe I'm old enough to play the dad card here, have a little conversation about things you can be doing to combat your inflation. Now, obviously, this is a crazy topic. It's huge, wide. It's got a lot of different demographics. But let me just narrow down three, I think, major headings here. One is if you own your own home and you bought it before 2020 and you're still gainfully employed, okay? And you didn't buy your house, so you maxed yourself right out. Like the whole moving in and I got no curtains, I use garbage bags on my windows broke. If you didn't do that to yourself, because that is wise, never fully extend yourself, especially in an economy like we got now. Moving forward, always remember, don't overextend yourself. The risk versus reward, it's too volatile, okay? Owning a house is a great place to put your money, but it's not a huge investment vehicle all in and of itself. Historically, houses have outperformed inflation by 1% a year. That's not a lot of growth on your money. But since it's growing your money and you don't have to pay rent and it's gone, it makes a little bit of sense to have ownership, okay, for a lot of folks. So if you're in that group, the inflation is like, yeah, things are getting more expensive. I get it. But at least you've hedged yourself. You're not fully engaged. If you're having job issues, then you want to watch this video, okay? Or if you don't have enough revenue to deal with the inflation in your situation, you want to watch this video. Because what I'm going to talk about today is the emergence of a blood, sweat, and tears economy that is available to fill the gap in our labor shortage, all over North America. We have a huge vacuum of skilled labor in this country, yours and mine combined. If you're in the States, Canada, we're all in the same boat together. We've combined our economies together so tightly that we're really combined. Everything that happens to one happens to both of us. So it's nice to deal with all in one big bucket, okay? If you've had your home in the last couple of years, you realize that your value proposition has gone through the roof, right? You're up 30% over 2 years. I don't want you to go forward thinking, well, my house will keep growing in value. Real estate is very regional. Some places are still going up. Some places are going down. There's going to be some settling of the accounts there, okay? But generally speaking, you got enough growth over the last little while that inflation shouldn't scare you. I don't see inflation being more than a 2, maybe 3-year issue, and it should start to level out again, just because in the old days when we had massive inflations like in the 80s, and that was hellish, we had an energy crisis. Yes, we have an energy crisis. We had massive inflation, and we're doing it again. And we also had a housing crisis back then, and we have one now. We don't have enough room to put everybody. But the difference is back then, governments didn't print tons of money to solve their problems. And now the whole world is printing money to solve their problems. So we're not subjected to, are we outperforming or underperforming other countries? Because we solve performance by printing cash now. So generally the impact of these negative stimulus is much lower, okay? Now, what that means for us is this. If you're a DIYer, you've got a house that's got a value, it's outperforming inflation, so inflation itself doesn't scare you. You're gainfully employed, everything's fine. If you need extra money, we've got a solution here for you. And if you lost a job and you can't find one right now in your economy, in your region where you're living, it's good news because there is this massive labor shortage, right? And so what I'm going to share today is this. 2 things are going on at the same time here for homeowners you need to know. One, the cost of building materials is going down at the supply side, okay? So that means the Home Depots aren't showing you much of a price discount yet. But if you're seeing those discounts, jump in the comment section, any video, anytime, let us know as soon as you see it. Generally, if they paid $1,000 for a unit and they got to sell it to make sure they get their money back. Just because they're buying today's replacement at $300 doesn't mean they lower the price. They got to pay for the old inventory first. So generally speaking, inventory trickles down 4 to 6 months when you have a massive reduction. And because the housing market is slowing down because of the inflation issues, we're seeing that demand go down for the product. It is going to get much easier for you to DIY and your material costs will go down soon. All right. I don't know if it happened before Christmas, but definitely by the spring, we should see a lot of relief and a lot more ability for people to build things more cost effectively. Now, on the flip side, because the housing market is so strong, when you renovate, you get a 300% return on that investment. This is why I believe in home ownership. Remember, the home only outpaces inflation by 1% a year. But every time you put money into your house, you increase the value of your home 300% times the money you put in as a DIYer. Because that's the value of that renovation. If you had paid a contractor, that's how much the price would have gone up of your home. Okay. So consider that. That's a great way to beat inflation long term, is to continue to renovate your houses, remodel, do building projects, do things that have an immediate return, like painting your outside, doing outdoor projects, okay, changing your flooring, updating your bathrooms. This is all great. And you can beat the system. Now, if you're in trouble and you need to make some money, that's okay, because on this channel, we are teaching you guys life skills, not just DIY skills. And we've got a brand new video series that we've just finished filming. It's going to be coming out really soon. We're going to put a link in the video description for you for the first one. It's about how to make thousands of dollars in your spare time with the gig economy. All right. And if you haven't seen that video, you want to check that out, because we're going to be teaching you step by step how to set up your own little small home-based home, let's call it handyman service, okay, where you can provide services for folks who are desperately looking for you to do things around their house. Because just because we're in an inflationary period doesn't mean everybody in our economy is in the same situation. Lots of retired people who are on full pensions, who are doing just fine, their investments are secured, and they've got the cash and they don't want to get on a ladder, looking to hire you to do some work for them. So we got a whole program set aside for you to help you jump into that economy. All right. It's not all doom and gloom. It's a temporary bump in the road. But I've always believed in this. If you invest in yourself and you learn new skills and you are nimble and versatile, you can weather any storm. Blood, sweat, and tears will see you through. All right. So for everybody out there who works for a living, you know what I'm saying. It doesn't matter how bad things get. It just means you got to work harder. We can all work harder. Okay. All right. And so for everybody out there who's slowly quitting your job by just not working very hard, come on now. This is a season to work your butt off. If you don't like your job, leave it and go get yourself a new one. But don't become lazy. It's not going to serve you well long term. And let me just say this one more thing. I've got a couple of notes. Keep me on track, right? As a handyman guy or girl, think about this. The average wage for handyman in North America is $85 an hour. With some of the skills that we're going to teach in our series, you can go up to 200. Okay. There's that much demand for you out there. All right. And that should be exciting. Now, if you're a homeowner and you have work that you need done, hit the comment section up. Let us know what you need. What kind of services, what kind of person are you looking for? How much are you willing to pay? Love to have that conversation in the comment section. All right. And if you're looking for work, make sure you follow this series. You're going to need it. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. You're not going to want to miss out. On Saturdays, we're still going to have our regular programming. We're going to be showing our DIY projects. We're going to be going through our build at the church. And then we got another exciting project coming up soon. But on the other Tuesdays and Thursdays, depending, we're going to have other releases to help you with this gig economy. I think everybody needs to have their own small home-based business. Almost everybody in America is allowed to do it without too much hassle, okay, without too much cost to get started. It's actually really affordable. And I think it's something worth looking at. Yeah. So make sure you check this out. All right. We're going to put a link in the description and you can check this right here. It's how to make thousands of dollars working blood, sweat, and tears from your own home in your part-time. Cheers and enjoy your life. All right. Now that's done. Let's just jump in here and talk to everybody. I know we've saw a couple of questions in the comment section before we even got started tonight. I just wanted to get that message out and encourage you guys to be a part of that. Quiet quitting. That's the phrase, eh? Is that catching on? Quiet quitting.
It's caught on.
I'm just going to sit here and pretend I'm working. Oh, for God's sake, get a life. Oh, you know, I would kill for a marketplace like we got right now when I was 20. I wouldn't even be doing this job. I'd already retired. I'd be on a beach at 40. With my work ethic, if I had this kind of an economy, I'd have been a millionaire in 60 days. This is ridiculous. Quiet quitting. You know, the people that quiet quitting are this. They're the ones whose parents are baby boomers, and they're just waiting for them to die so they can inherit their money. That's all it is. They think they've already got it taken care of. I'm telling you right now, man, oh man, oh man. Life has a way of leveling out the scales and kicking your ass. Don't become one of these people. It's not healthy. It's not good for your mind either. All right. If you're not working hard, you don't have any self-respect, then you're just going to spiral out of control and destroy your own life. All right, enough of the dad now. Enough of dad. Enough of dad. I don't need to give you any more advice than that. Let's get to some questions. Tonight, I got Eric helping me out with the chat. He's going to keep me organized. And of course, I got my wife and my daughter in the chat, so everybody has to behave. You know what happens. What do we got here? Join us. We got Sandy tonight. First thing, right on. Existential Paint. Julian is here. And I noticed earlier that we had Miss Tina Michelle was in the chat, right? If you got questions, guys, we're going to stay live in the chat. I'm not going to go backwards in time. It's always a pain in the butt. So just keep your questions live. If I miss your question, throw it in again. All right. We'll try to help as many people as we can here tonight. And we're going to try a little experiment. I might even expound a little bit more on some of these questions if I see them coming up a lot. Don't forget, we're members only in the chat. The rules of engagement are this. You're feel free to watch. But if you got a question, you got to super chat or become a member. Okay, we got thousands of people who got questions in our live shows. We can't answer everything. So we got to limit the people who are willing to help themselves. And that's the rule. And I'm not going to apologize for it because this is a lot of fun. All right. Oh, dude, I've been working too hard. Sometimes I forget that I'm old. I wouldn't mind if Jeff was my daddy. We're going to not touch that with a 10-foot pole. Oh, wow. What happened to the window gig? Yeah, window gig is it's on hold because the supply chain is a disaster. All right. And we can't get behind something that we can't get behind. So anyway, Melanie is here. Good to see you again, Melanie. And Josh is here. Right on. Would you DIY? Oh, would I DIY moving a bedroom window 2 feet over? Yeah, Josh, I would. There's two options. One is your house has got a gable wall and it's not load bearing. So generally speaking, it's a little more DIY friendly. But even if it's a structural wall, it's not that tricky. You get a structural engineer in, they give you a plan, you execute the plan, and you can follow it and do it on code. It's not that hard. Is it capable of moving it over 2 feet? Sure. Is it worth the money? Only you know the answer to that question. But yeah, it can definitely be done. It's not that hard. Generally comes down to the facade on the outside. That's the biggest expense because inside it's just wood and drywall, right? But yeah, definitely doable. I did it. My farmhouse has got all kinds of new windows in it. Not my farmhouse no more. Joseph wants to know, would love for you to do videos on quoting and pricing. There you go. Yeah, we're doing all of that. Okay. They're all coming up real soon. I think in the next couple of weeks, we should be starting that series. I'm not going to give you an actual date because guess what? Yeah, the whole world's making videos and editors are a little in short supply. So we're having a little issues with getting on top of all of our game. And that's fine. And while we're talking about it, if you are a very good qualified editor and you're a fan of the channel and you're looking for some extra work, then consider careers at homerenovision.ca. I can't believe .com. One more time. Careers at homerenovision.diy.com. Yeah, because you know what? We are actually growing and looking for more talented people to join our team. And it could be you. Don't just send us an email and say, yeah, I'd like to work for you. I want you to send me 3 examples of your work that we can comb through and decide if that's the kind of stuff that we're looking for. More than one reason for doing that, but do that, and then we can have a chat. All right? Cheers. Tim Mancini. I'm going to sing every time someone sends me $20. That's ridiculous. Tim, he says, your videos have taught me so much. You just purchased your first house in 1950. I'm thinking the house is a 1952 home because that's you purchased it in April. Okay, cool. Thanks for videos. Able to DIY tons of countless projects so far. Love you, Big Daddy Jeff. Wow, thank you. Well, listen, I am glad to have been a help. 1952 is not an era that I've really touched on much, but I get it. You know, like I just hope that you're being somewhat safe with your air quality when you're working, all right? If you got an older home like that, guys, make sure you wear a good quality mask. Don't follow my advice with this new materials because they're relatively not that dangerous. But the older stuff, you know, they can be harsh. All right. We should do a video on that, Eric. We should make a note. Things homeowners need to be aware of when renovating older houses. I have not done that yet. And I know I'm a safety second guy, but some stuff you just got to be a little bit wiser to. And if you're not sure, hit us up in the comments section or hit us up in the members forum. That's right. Members have a forum, special place where we can chat and they can send me pictures, and they do. And I help them. And you know what? It's worth the $5 a month because I save your bacon and you don't have to get conflicting advice from all kinds of different friends and neighbors. And let's face it, how many neighbors do you really know that know more than me? Just joking. My God. All right. Edge 1, Indiana has got a question here. Starting on remodeling the kitchen and both bathrooms next week. That is a big bite to do all at the same time. All your supplies are stacking up in the garage. Good to have a place to stage. Thanks for all your knowledge. So that is just a tip. Cool. Well, good luck with your project. If you have questions, consider joining the membership program because I can help bail you out. Sandy Rose is starting her own channel about how to procrastinate, even though you know Jeff and family. Take a second there. I bet you have 100 subscribers in the first week, Sandy. That's awesome. Okay, here we go. Take me to some questions. Boom. Frederick Sagard, Montreal, 1943 home. Nice. Hey, good point. Let's just bring this up. If you're going to ask me a question, tell me where you live, the age of your home. I got to have a little geography and history in order to answer your question properly, okay? When I walk in my garage attic, okay, it's bouncing. The trusses are 2x6. Good. I want to drywall my garage ceiling, but I'm afraid that the flex will tear the paper where the screws are. This is a situation where you want to add strapping, okay? Strapping is also very pliable, and so is drywall. So if you strap the ceiling, you're going to find, and just for extra care, if you put your 2 screws into drywall 1 inch apart everywhere where you attach it, it's twice as many screws, I know, but if you've ever done a demolition, you'll know that if you get a commercial situation, they got the 2 screws 1 inch apart, it's almost impossible to kick that drywall off from the backside. But if there's only 1 screw, it just comes apart like nothing, like wet paper. So do 2 screws 1 inch apart, add strapping first and go contrary to the strapping when you drywall, and you'll be just fine. Julie J, welcome to the membership. Cheers. And Jeremy has a question here. What's your process for determining if a property is worth renovating, flipping? How can you anticipate a selling price once done? You know what? I'm not going to give anybody a free shout out, but I like going on Zillow. Bottom line, they have a little geography thing, and you can zoom in on the house, and it tells you the price of the house. It tells you the price of the other houses in the neighborhood that have recently sold or been evaluated. Okay, so it gives you an idea what the neighborhood's actually worth, and then you can decide if the age of the house and the condition of the house warrant the renovation. Bottom line, if you're going to DIY and flip your own house, okay, you're making money. I don't care how slow you are. 300% return on material investment gives you a lot of time and a lot of maneuverability. Okay, just remember, keep it simple, keep it remodeling. If you slide into renovating, you've also got to get into permits and all kinds of other things going on there. And if it's not your principal residence, you might have to be a licensed contractor. So check out your state requirements for doing that kind of stuff first, and then decide. Because some states, even if you own the house, but it's not your principal residence, you've got to be a licensed contractor, even if you want to paint it. Yeah, so make sure you know the rules before you get started so you don't run into trouble, because you don't want to cease and desist. Anyway, having said that, let's get back to the questions. Okay, Jay Lesko, new member here. Question is, almost every room has the old cardboardy tiles on the ceiling. Should I prime and paint them or replace with drywall for resale? That is a really good question. An 1890s home. Okay, so 1890s homes with cardboardy ceiling is not an original ceiling for that home. So they're already covering up the plaster that's falling apart. So it's probably strapped and then have that stuff on there. The challenge is some of those used to be made with asbestos. So you don't want to go tearing that all down unless you test it first. If you're not going to test it, you can take a drill and you can identify the strapping and drill a few holes and know which way the strapping is going. And there'll be a strap on every joint, every 12 inches. And you can install your drywall right over top of that with a 1 5/8 or a 2-inch screw, and you'll be perfectly fine. Okay? So consider that as an option. Sometimes it's best to layer. Sometimes it's best to start from scratch. But if you're dealing with hazardous materials, sometimes it's just best to layer and encapsulate the old inside the new, and then everybody's safe. Cheers. All right. Where are we going here? Tony Bloom, welcome to the membership. Oh, nice avatar. Love that. God wills it. All right. Okay. So Tom is building a brick paver walkway in Annapolis. What's the order of the layer of materials? Also, running a 40 amp circuit, which should be fun. Yeah, that's easy. Brick pavers are easy. Remove the grass, remove your black soil, go find your clay or your sand or your dirt or whatever it is you got up there in Indianapolis. And then you're going to want to add some crushed stone. You want to pack it. Different regions are different. The more frost you get, the thicker the base you're going to want. Okay. You want to make sure that all has drainage. And then you want to add 1 inch of sand. And then you want to add your paver on top of that. So once you do your math, you know how deep you got to dig as a minimum. Okay. But so even if you find good soil, sometimes you got to dig through that soil too, just to get deep enough in order to rebuild properly. So do your math. Know which paver you're going to use as well, because some of them are 4 inch or 3 inch or 2 inch. So you got to know the end from the beginning before you dig, or you'll just be buying a whole lot of backfill for no reason potentially. And that sucks. Okay. My ship, Gatineau, Quebec. Most homes have the popcorn ceiling. Yeah, same here. What do you recommend for removing it? Tear down the drywall or scrape it? Okay, so really it comes down to two things. Did it get painted after the fact? Right? So you just go up and you touch it. If it comes off just by touching it, it's easy to scrape off, okay? You can just get a little wand, a little hand pump. You can spray a little water on it and then put plastic sheet out and you can scrape it off with a nice wide drywall blade. Piece of cake, easy to do. If it's been painted though, it's really a pain in the butt. So you can either add a new layer right over top of drywall or you can tear it out and start over. The amount of effort it takes to try to scrape it and add 2 or 3 skim coats of drywall mud to resurface the ceiling, it's in a lot of cases, it's easier just to tear it all down because you're going to have to paint all the walls in the house regardless, right? So for me, it's just drywall. I'd tear it out and put in new every single time. And it gives you an opportunity to find out if there's hidden surprises in the ceiling. Cheers. Robert Nichols, welcome to Money in the Bank. Cheers, buddy. And we got a question here from Mike in Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan's a province in Canada for all of our folks in the South who don't know where that is. 1978 home, typical 70 square foot bathroom. That's actually a good size, not bad. You bought 110 CFM bathroom fan to install. Am I crazy? Is this just overkill? And do I need to worry about negative air pressure in the house? Okay, so 110 cubic feet per minute. You want to be able to exhaust all the air in a bathroom in 5 minutes. So you got 70, let's go an 8-foot ceiling. So you're in the 300 range. Yeah, so you're fine. It sounds like a lot, but it's not. Okay. And in a 1978 home, you also got forced air heating and cold air returns. So you're not going to create a negative pressure situation in your bathroom where it's like going to pull the paint off the wall or anything. So don't worry about it. You're going to be just fine. That's a very standard installation in today's marketplace. All right. Appreciate the question. Michael, look at this. Christina's running the board. Cheers. Michael's got a question. My apologies for beating the dead horse. DIYing my girlfriend basement floor. Is that what that means? That's all I got. Tearing out carpet, 97, 98, 2-story home, no moisture issues, a vapor barrier, question mark, I plan on a plank with an attached pad. If you're going directly on your floor, 97, 98, here's what you do. Michael, you take a garbage bag, okay? I want you to tape it to the floor. Leave it overnight. If you come back the next day and you pull the garbage bag back and there's a wet spot, it means you don't have a vapor barrier underneath the concrete. Then you're going to have to put in a 2-in-1 underlayment with a vapor barrier for that floor before you install. It's a bare minimum. I recommend a subfloor. There's a 2-in-1 product. There's a thermal product. Drycore makes a new thermal barrier that's just rigid foam, and you can put that down. It makes basements a lot more comfortable. But if you're looking to keep your costs down, then I understand going direct on the floor, but make sure you don't have a moisture issue because that pad really isn't going to act as a vapor barrier. The flooring is going to be the vapor barrier. Now, if you're doing vinyl, you should be okay. But if you're going with the laminate, you're in a lot of trouble. You're going to get swelling, and it's going to be a very short-term program. Okay. Another question here. I live in Kentucky, 1962 ranch style home. How should I level out and support the floor long term? Have a joist that was incorrectly notched, causing eventual sagging. Okay. 2x8 joist, 12-foot span. Yeah, that's about the maximum. So a notch on any joist that goes 12 feet on a 2x8 is going to be weak. So you want to level that out. Okay. Kentucky 1962 ranch style home. I'm assuming you have a crawl space, which means you have access underneath your floor. So the best plan for you really is to do this. Get underneath there, get yourself a concrete paver and a little bottle jack or something, or a car jack, and lift that floor joist till it's level, and then give it another pump or two till it's just a little over level. So it's a little bit of a rainbow. And then I want you to laminate plywood, 1/2 inch or 3/4, a good 8-foot stretch on each side of that with glue and screw. And then the next day you take the pump out after it's had a chance to set up. You'll be surprised that it'll all sit back right down perfectly flat. And you'll be like, loving it. It's a repair. You don't need a structural engineer for a repair. Unless the beam itself has got a big crack in it, what you're going to do there is you're going to reinforce it so it doesn't keep moving and it won't sag anymore. And that will be enough for that. All right. Hey, welcome to Money in the Bank. Make sure you ask your questions here, guys. Oh, he did good. And then, wow, I almost looked like a word. STFUFFS.
Do you know what that stands for?
No. I don't have any idea. Oh, I'm starting to realize it. I'm starting to realize it.
You can't say it.
Washington State rain, and lots of it. What are the chances of getting a step-by-step for a shed using post and pier foundation to deal with all the soggy ground and drainage? The chances of that are pretty awesome. Like in a couple weeks. Yeah, we already filmed it. We did it with a ground level deck, but the principle is solid. And really all you want to do is just put in some footings to build your deck on. So, yes. The only thing I don't know about Washington is I don't know if your beams that go horizontally have to sit on top of your posts or if you can attach them with carriage bolts like I do. So you have to check your own local building code. But other than that, we did a whole post and beam shed build, and you're going to love it. All right. Michael, he's got a question. Will do. Love your videos and advice. Thank you so much. Okay.
You just answered his question.
I answered your question, Michael. Yeah. This happens. Every once in a while, I say something really intelligent. All right. Okay. Julian, good to hear from you, buddy. 87 condo here in Pompano. Working with PB pipes. My brain ain't working with all the short form stuff.
PB.
Plumb bum pipes. We're talking old school. Going to do sink plumbing and wanted to know if you have a way to update them without using shark bites. If you're talking about your water supply, yes. Yeah. I don't really understand the question. You don't need to use a shark bite. Like every other kind of plumbing out there has got a shutoff valve that fits for it. So if you've got a 1/2 inch outside diameter pipe like copper piping, you can use a compression fitting. If you have steel pipes, it comes threaded, and you can use a threaded fitting, right? And then convert over. They sell all these products. You might need to go to a different store to get the product that you need, but just take a picture of what's under your sink currently and then hit the hardware store and they'll be able to hook you up. They've got a whole aisle with all the different fittings to make conversions, okay? So this is all standard fitting size. So you can go from steel or ABS or CPVC or whatever. If it brought water into your home, the same science that exists to convert from that to something new is in the store. It's on the shelf. Shouldn't be a problem. Yinzer House, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Finally got that right. All right. Is there a minimum height of exterior foundation walls, stone, and siding from the ground? Adding dirt to regrade yard slope a bit. 150-year-old house in the Berg. Okay. Is there a minimum height? No. Is there common sense height? Yes. What you want to do is understand your own house. You've got obviously a stone, but then you're going to have a facade. And what is your facade and what kind of weatherproofing you have behind it? So if you have siding and house wrap, okay, or if you have anything that's like a good weatherproofing seal and you get snow in the wintertime and then it rains, that's really where you got to be careful, okay? So if you wanted to grade your house a little bit, then that's fine. That'll serve you well to do that. But in the winter during the thaw freeze cycle, you got to consider what's your average snowfall, how much does it build up around the house, and then what happens if it rains. Like, you know what it's like? You get 2 feet of snow, and then you get like an ice storm, right? You get freezing rain, and then it gets warm and it rains. And then it gets cold at night and freezes. You don't want all that wet mess right where your wood meets your foundation wall. So think about that. It might require you to do a little maintenance every once in a while if you get some freak weather, okay? But just be wise to the fact that that's going to be a potential dangerous situation for you. If the water crawls up over your concrete foundation and underneath your sill plate and under your house, insurance won't cover that. All right? I don't know anywhere that it does. So if I'm wrong, let me know, but I don't know anywhere where that covers. And that's really where it comes down to. You're doing it yourself, so you got to think for yourself and you got to act for yourself. All right? Beautiful. Sarah, DeWalt brushless? R20, got it? Okay. You got a jam, yes. Okay. So you've got a tool. Got it. You've got a DeWalt nailer. Okay. Do I know a fix? Yes. Every major center has got a DeWalt service center. Okay. They're going to have stores. You can Google your DeWalt service store near you. Almost every time I ran into a problem with a DeWalt tool, I can go to that store and they can fix it on the spot. I didn't have to leave it and come back a month later and get another one. Okay. So that's where I go. I go to the DeWalt Service Tool Center because they aren't shipping the tools out for maintenance and they can do a lot of stuff right there on the spot. DeWalt tools are professional grade. They're built heavy duty. And when you do run into a problem, a lot of times it's just experience and they've got tools and tricks and stuff there. I've had chucks that won't release bits and stuff. And I just pop by and within 5 minutes, I'm walking out with my tool, everything all fixed up. So give that a Google and see if you got one near you. That should help you out. All right. Oh, hang on. I want to go back up to the Yinzer house. In my failed plumbing inspection video right there, did the inspector have any issues with the cheater valve's effectiveness or just what you want? Yeah, there's a lot of questions around that. Let's deal with it. In my region, I can use a cheater valve. My code says if it's impossible to tie in. That's a very subjective phrase because realistically, I could have brought the pipe out of the wall and over and tied it back in again. And that was possible. It'd just be ugly, right? But what the inspector was saying is I don't mind if these are used if you just can't get your vent pipe tied into the existing system. But since I furred out the wall, it was possible, and he would rather if it tied in than not. A lot of people are going, yeah, it's in the wall. You're not going to get air in there. Well, the way we do it, guys, just to be honest, is we put a cold air return grill at the top of the wall where that vent is. The point is that we want to be able to have access for maintenance anyway. And so there's your fresh air. There's your maintenance. That's what makes it legal. You're going to all stop hating on me like I'm an idiot and I don't know how to close a wall. It's not a big deal, but it is better, right? It's like if you're driving and you got an option. If your kid's a lousy driver, you tell him always turn right. And even if it takes you 3 times to turn right to go left, that's fine. That's safer than trying to turn left at the major intersection. You know what I mean? So this is just a better option. It's safer long term. There wasn't anything wrong with what I did. It just wasn't good enough once I furred out the wall. Anyway, and I was just a busy guy. Like I'm doing this, I'm doing YouTube. I'm trying to renovate the house. I got a family, I got a life. Yeah, I got distracted and I forgot to take a second look before I called them. No biggie. Spencer, cheers, man. Welcome to the membership club. Oh, Frank's got a question. I saw the Netherlands. Cheers to all the people from the Netherlands, by the way. You guys have been really supporting our channel a lot in the last couple of years, and I love you. I can't wait to get out there and visit. 1967. Okay. The bitumen roof on wood board on the side of our house has no insulation on it. Got it. The wood gets moist spots and it's cold. How to isolate without moist risk. Frank, dude. Okay, you're hitting all of my buttons on things that we don't do, generally speaking, over here. So here's what I'm going to say. Frank, send me a question in our forum, okay? Because I actually got somebody that I can talk to who's a great resource, and I can get you a proper answer. Okay, so don't forget, send me a picture, ask that question in the forum, and I will answer for you, I promise. Cheers. I may not know everything, but I know people who do, right? And that's what helps. Okay, so Julian is replacing a vanity with floating wood top. Okay, and vessel sink, sure. How would you go about mounting, considering I have metal studs? Also, want to install sleek bottle traps versus P-trap. All right, for you, Julian, I would suggest putting metal feet on your floating vanity. End of discussion. Okay, you don't want to put that kind of stress on a piece of metal strapping. In a lot of condos, the metal in the wall is only there to hold the drywall. It's not structural, so it's only like 1.5 inches thick. Okay, you don't want to put that kind of strain on a 1.5 inch thick piece of steel stud, especially with plumbing and stuff. It means you don't have enough horizontal strength. It's like not really reinforced well enough. So if you're going to do a floating wall in that situation, open up the wall, put in something structural from floor to ceiling that'll carry the weight, or add the legs, okay? And don't have it carry all the weight. You still get that illusion of open space and it's easy to clean, but it's a hell of a lot safer. All right. Where the heck am I? Okay, Carol. Toronto condo. Right on. Just updated under the kitchen sink plumbing. Made a last minute change, new countertop. Now my recent plumbing change is obsolete already. Can I keep my old sink? Yes. There's a possibility, depending on your countertop and what your sink is. The old sink might be see, there's two kinds. There's a surface mount where we drop it into a hole. Very common in Formica countertops or wood chop blocks, or there's undermount sinks. So if you got yourself a new stone countertop, like a quartz or a Corian or a granite, then the old sink going in that hole, bad call. Buy yourself a new sink, okay? Or you're going to lose the value of having that wonderful countertop. But if it's another Formica, yes, you can install it. What you do is you set the sink on top, you trace it out, like tape it off first, trace it out, and then retrace it about 1/2 inch smaller. So then you can cut that hole, drop in the sink, and there's still something for the teeth from the clips to grab onto. Did we do anything about that in the video? I feel like I've done this. The recent kitchen video. All right. I did that. I had a countertop and I had to prep the sink for a drop in because I was going to do tile. So if you watch that recent kitchen countertop video where I did the tile countertop, you're going to see all the prep work for getting ready for that. And that'll help you out. Cheers, Carol. All right.
And you had to move that sink too because it was going to be.
I was going to do it on one side and then I had to move it to the middle. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was frustrating. That was a bad day. That was like supply chain nightmare.
Good video.
Well, I had to film a video and I had everybody booked, so I had to buy the damn sink. You know, what do you do? All right. Where are we here? Julian, give me a tip. Cheers, man. Merry Christmas. Well, I hope we see you around here before Christmas, but yeah, that works for me. All right. Jeff, welcome to the Money in the Bank. Cheers, buddy. You're welcome. Yeah, let's go back up a little bit. Okay. Well, let's deal with this one first. Let's do with Sean right there. 1970s house. Re-drywalling a lot of walls from scratch. Okay. Didn't realize that the walls had to be level. Okay. Yeah. So you're going to have one stud that's like this and the next stud's like that, right? And they're all like, right? And you're like, how do you put drywall on that? There's two techniques, Sean. One of them, well, three options you have. One of them is you get a planer, okay? And it's just a portable hand tool, and you can actually plane down some of the high spots, all right, on either side of that wall, which makes the wall a little bit thinner, which can run you into trouble. Generally, it's not a will it hold the drywall issue as much as is it thick enough now for electrical and all the other stuff. The other option is you can cut the stud 3/4 of the way through. You can straighten it out. You stick a 1x4 on it, a couple of nails on the top and the bottom, and you straighten it out. And you can do one at a time all the way down the wall. The other option is before you put the drywall on, you take a spray bottle and you soak it with water on the brown paper side, okay? And then you hang it and screw it all together. And you put glue on the studs. What happens is it gives the drywall enough flexibility to mold into the shape of the wall, and it'll stick it there while you're screwing it on. And then the trick with that is you're going to be one hell of a drywall taping expert. Just make that surface look good when you're done. But sometimes it's a combination of all three, right? A little bit of this, a little bit of that, and you can get there. All right. Worst case scenario is rip out a couple of bad studs and cut some new straight ones and stick them in. That'll work too. All right. Frederick, Montreal, 1943. Kitchen floors are a bit bouncy. 2x6 joists? I guess so. Should I assist them with 2x8s? No. No, Frederick. The best plan is instead of using 2x8s, if you want to get rid of some bounce, is actually you glue and screw 3/4 inch plywood, okay, on those joists. And then if you have access underneath, you can take 2x4s and you can like strap the floor in the opposite direction. All right. And you can actually strap it that way. What it does is all the weight that goes on a joist then gets transferred by that strap to the next two joists. And so then you're minimizing the total weight on every joist as you go. But generally speaking, plywood is a much better way to laminate. Cheers. And we got an 1890s house. I think we're going to have to answer that one. You know how I love my 1890s. Northeastern Pennsylvania, right there. 80% of the drywall in my house has all sorts of imperfections and problems. Should I skim it all up or totally replace it all? You know, that's a really damn good question. Here's what I'm thinking. How well do you know your house? Right? Like an 1890s house. How well do you really know it? Have you done enough renovations that you really, really know it? Are you comfortable with the insulation? Northeast Pennsylvania, it's nice to have some insulation up there. I would be tempted to take like one wall and rip it right off and start over. Just so I can find out, have they moved the windows and doors? What's the structural integrity looking like? What's the insulation looking like? Was it blown in? Is it bat? Has it all sunken? Is there a bunch of cold drafts? There's a lot of questions you're going to answer by opening up one wall to understand how the house was dealt with. And that's what my advice would be. Open up one wall and then decide if you're comfortable moving forward with the skim coat. Because you can buy a 4-foot skim coat blade and you can just throw a lot of mud on the wall and then smooth it all out and you can make quick work of it. But if you're going to do something like that on an old house, there's a good chance of paint. So make sure you prime it with a flat oil before drywall compound. That way you get a good bond and you can paint with modern paints. Not Chris, can we roll up just a touch to the yellow bar? Did that one.
You did that one.
F, boom, boom, boom. Spencer. Spencer's working on creating a rental in his garage and needs to soundproof to be another, what? Okay, soundproofing. Yeah, if you're soundproofing walls from one residence to the next, you want to get to STC 50. That is as simple as having insulation in the wall cavity, and I would say fire rated or fiberglass reinforced drywall on the one side. Okay, that's it. In today's building code, between townhouse units, all they do is use bad insulation, and that's enough to get to 50. What it means is you can hear people talking, but you can't understand what they're saying. All right. And if you want to go more than that, then go 2 layers of drywall, add green glue, add vinyl mass, put in some sound resilient clips. There's all kinds of different steps. You can follow all the videos that we have on the subject. If you have questions about soundproofing, how much you want to get, go to our homepage. Just type in the little search icon, soundproofing. It's going to list a bunch of videos for you, and you can watch those, and that'll help you understand. I got a lot of information there for you. But it's hard to answer a soundproofing question because there's no such thing as soundproof. There's sound reduction. And how much isolation and how much money you're willing to invest to get to what quality really is the $1 million question. But minimum code is basically throw in some bats of insulation. Okay? So that's a good place to start. And if people want to complain with that, well, they've never rented anywhere in the whole world because nobody goes above and beyond when it comes to rentals. But for your own sanity, you might want to up your game so that you have a nice, quiet place. Now, Janie B, welcome to the membership program. And here we go. Less of a name and more of a philosophy. Yeah, I get that. Hey, wait. Aphrodite. Aphrodite was in the comment section. She's dealing with her structural engineer. Heading out of town, harassing you about things for the 1983 home soon enough. Whenever that overpriced engineer shows up. All right, cheers. I just want to make sure if you had a question, I got you. All right, next. My classic line is just drywall. Yeah, you got that right. Jeff just joined the membership, and he's got a question. Doing our first kitchen wall tile installation soon. We'd love to know where you get your subway tile in Canada. Specifically the 2-inch by 12-inch with a slight edge bevel. Well, in my area, I go to a place called Eurotile. It's in Ottawa, in the east end of town. And cheers to everybody over at Euro. Great place, got a great showroom. Most tile stores are going to have options like that, okay? It shouldn't be too hard to find, Jeff. You can even just call ahead. Hey, do you got anything in the way of 2x12s? because trends change and inventory changes. And so, but that's pretty standard. And I don't think you'll have a problem finding it. All right. And if you do, you can always contact Eurotile in Ottawa by email, and they would actually be happy to ship it out for you. They'll ship it across the country if you need to. All right. So you can always feel free to do that. All right. Cheers.
Did you get this 1927?
Hey, Jane's question. I'm planning on finishing my basement. No. Bathroom. Is it okay to put a bathtub? My dad is saying to put a shower only. Okay. Here comes the $1 million question. Who is your renter? All right. Who's going to be renting? Who's your ideal renter? Jane, I get it. Like, of course, dads are saying use a shower because, a lot of men don't use tubs. They just shower only. But I know a lot of women like a good tub. So it makes no difference to me if you want to use a tub or a shower. To be honest with you, as far as like the technology of putting plumbing in a basement, it makes no difference. One isn't easier than the other, and they both cost about the same kind of money. All right. As a matter of fact, if you put a steel tub, you can get them for about $200 or less. And that's a really good quality installation that saves you a lot of problems. You are dear. Cheers.
Cheers.
Love a good coffee. Okay. So I would be more concerned about your building technology with how you're finishing a 1927 house. Okay. So Jane, for you, definitely jump into our forum. Send me a question. If you find any difficulty understanding how to do that, we have a support team. So feel free to just send us messages. And to anybody, if you have trouble getting in the forum, just go into our newest video, send me a message, and I'll hook you up with the email. I don't even know it off the top of my head.
If you do community posts,
Yeah.
it's going to be in the
Yeah, there you go.
today.
We put information in the community post for you guys so that you can find it. Once you're a member, you can get community post membership links that we haven't got available for everybody else. So make sure you check it out. Get into the forum because a 1927 home, it can be a little tricky finishing. You don't want to put a lot of money into it. That's going to cause you problems and have to be replaced. So, especially if you're going to have somebody living there, there's a lot of things you got to do to comply with state regulations and everything else, okay? And I would love to be able to go through all that. Maybe one of these days, we'll do a video about how to turn your basement into a secondary living dwelling and all the steps you got to go through. It's a little tricky, but it's worth it. If you do it right, you can turn your house into an absolute making machine. Let me know in the comments section if that's something you guys are interested in. Happy to go through it. I've done a bunch of them. It's not that difficult of a process as long as you know the end from the beginning. That's right. Okay. Where are we here, bud?
We're a time management question from Joe K.
Love time management questions. I am lousy at that. Okay. You preach the DIY mentality, but how to manage not having enough time to accomplish all said projects? Job, family life, etc. Believe me, I enjoy it and wish I could do it all. There are two major focuses here. Okay. You can't have time to do everything. That's the deal. You only live for so long. So you got to decide, why am I DIYing? How much am I going to take on? And then you got to communicate with everybody that you're in relationship with who's negatively affected by your lack of presence to get their input and approval or understanding. Okay? That's all. It's just relationship management. It's not time management. If you can disappear for 6 months and do nothing but blood, sweat, and tears on your home, and it's going to turn you into a position where you then have enough equity and then you can sell the house and you want to retire to the south coast of Spain and your wife is all in, then dude, do it. But if she says, if you do that, I'm out of here, you got to weigh that consequence. That's your decision. I'm just saying, in my life, and I've been married 33 years, so I have a good opinion on this. I average 70 to 80 hours a week in work. My wife really never had much of a problem with me not being in her hair too much. I'm just saying. I think she appreciated the work more than my chatter. So, you're going to find that there's a lot of room in your day and week, month, and year to put in extra work. Most people that have a job could actually probably put in an extra 20 or 30 hours a week or a month. Most of us could. We're just spoiled rotten living in the West. We don't have to work as hard as most people in the world. And we forget what work is. So don't be allergic to work. Work always benefits. But make sure you talk to everybody first. Happy wife, happy life. Julian's nailed it right on the head. Why did I just say that? That says it all, doesn't it?
It's pretty timeless wisdom.
It really is. But this is the season to work, folks. That's what I'm preaching. This is the season to work. Give us a couple years and it'll be the season to party. But right now it's the season to work. Okay. Mike has a question here. He says, a few of my shower tiles have a small gap in the grout lines. Yes. Assuming this has just happened over time as the tile seems to last 10 years old. Is there a quick fix for this? There is. Okay. Grout is two purposes. One is to keep water from getting out. And one is to allow the water that got trapped behind the grout to escape through relative humidity issues, okay? If you have gaps and it's not at the very bottom, or if it's just some gaps, you can clean that up just by white silicone, or you can just use more grout, okay? But if you have grout coming out, usually that's a result of there's movement on the wall. So you might be tiling on an outside wall, you might have 4 seasons, or you might be in a place where it gets extremely hot and things stretch and move and bend. And it's not uncommon for grout to move. It's not uncommon for air to get trapped behind the grout when you do your grouting. And you have a very thin layer, and then a little bit of contact or a little bit of movement can pop it out. So it's very normal. And it's as easy as getting some more grout and squeezing it in. Buy the premix stuff if you want to. The color might not match, but if you have a pure white grout, you'd be surprised what white silicone will do. That sometimes is a miracle worker, and it'll buy you the next 10 or 15 years on your tile. All right? Okay. Happy spouse, happy house. Oh, that's a good one, Corey. I like that. Oh, SBRKHD. Does that mean something that I'm also not aware of?
I am not aware of what that means.
I don't know.
I'm getting an education in modern society here today. You're doing a walkout basement egress exit. Okay. Got permits from City and Whitby. Shout out to Whitby, Ontario. But I'm not sure if I can connect the drain to storm drain or use the sump pump. Currently, I don't have a sump pump. Okay. Well, here's the deal. The lateral that your house is operating with goes to the city's system. That takes care of all the weeping tile. In a lot of houses, the sump pump also goes into the weeping tile. And on top of that, a lot of houses have interior French drain systems to collect excess water that makes it through the wall. That ergo goes into that system. What you got there is a question for the City of Whitby. Okay? They're going to be the ones to tell you. I am not up to date on all of my building code, unfortunately, when it comes to this situation. But I am almost positive that you'll be able to connect the drain at the bottom of that staircase, because that's what you're looking at, right? Something that collects the water so it doesn't come into the house. That most likely be able to connect to either the weeping system or directly to the lateral itself, all right? I don't see that being a problem. It's pretty standard, but just double check with them. You got it on permit. So that's a question they have to answer. And when in doubt in these situations, guys, when you're working on permit, call up your inspector and say, hey, this is unclear on the drawings. What do I do? What do you want to see me do so that when it's done, you can inspect it? And when should it be done? And what inspection cycle is it going? Okay. Make them work for their money. They're there. They're not getting paid that much, right? When you take a look at the cost of a permit versus the services you get, you already know that they're working on tax dollars to perform the service. So put them to work, because their job is to make sure that you do it right. So if you got questions about your permit process, don't ask me. Ask the guy that's signing off on the paperwork. That's your inspector. Remember, the people at the office sign off on your plan, okay? And then the inspector signs off on their interpretation of your job versus the plan versus anything else that comes up. So it's always easier to have a simple plan and then make changes with the inspector on site than have a complex plan and get approval at the city. That's a nugget, but the point is this. The inspector is the one with the magic pen. So if you ask them what they want and you deliver it, they won't fail you because they're the ones that told you to do it. Win, 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 right? That's how I operate it. I have done the same project more than once in my life on permit with different inspectors in the same city and done it 3 different ways because each of them had a different way to do it. That should tell you something, okay? I'm talking about fire separation in a basement for a second residential unit. All of those 3 inspectors had different systems, had different expectations and different desire for results. They all had different costs associated to them. If I always did it the way the most expensive guy said it, one of the other ones would have failed me. So the inspector is king once you got a permit. Nobody else's opinion counts. All right? So be friendly, be open to correction, and in worst case scenario, if you're not sure, ask them before you do it so you don't have to do it twice. All right? That is some marvelous advice. It'll save you a lot of time and money and panic. All right, Patrick. You used to live in the US and just bought a house built in 1965. Is it worth rewiring the electrical cables if they are currently all working? I'm also remodeling, so now would be the time to do it. Okay, so I got to understand. Remodeling, first of all, in my world, remodeling is when you're changing all of the fixtures, finishes, and flooring. Renovating is when you open up the walls and change mechanical systems. If you're not renovating and you're just remodeling, the $1 million question is wiring in 1965 acceptable to leave there, anticipating that the new finish and facade should last another 25 to 40 years? Well, let's see. 40 years from now, it's going to be 2065. If you plan on owning the house until 2065, I'm going to tell you right now to rewire your house. Okay? Because 100-year-old wiring is not going to perform. You're going to have a fire. All right? Well, not necessarily guaranteed, but your risk goes through the roof, right? It's like, it's okay to walk down the street on the sidewalk, but if you can't see and you don't know where the intersection is, then it can be really dangerous. Older the wiring, the more everything that they've done wrong in that installation can magnify the problem. So like, for instance, you have a wire and they got a staple. In the 60s, guys hammered those staples in as hard as they could. They made those wires so you couldn't move them. And that created compression and it created a heat block. Over time, that breaks down and breaks down and breaks down. Sooner or later, your wire fails. You don't want to put $50,000 renovating into a house just because you didn't want to wire it. Look at it this way. What's it going to cost you to rewire the whole house? 8, 10,000? If you do it yourself, maybe 3. Worth it, right? Now you've got a rewired house. In a lot of jurisdictions, you can do that on a homeowner permit. I'm going to say, if it was me and it was my house, I'd rewire it. Because in 65, the plugs and the lights weren't on separate switches, right? And all of the nuances that go with it, they don't have sufficient power for the kitchen. So even though you don't have to upgrade it, doesn't mean you want to not upgrade it. You're not going to have enough power there to do what you want to do. I would definitely rewire. My bottom line is when it comes to mechanical systems, when it's more than 50 years old, it's worth updating it if you're going to finish the facade. Okay, that's called the flip. If you don't, flips are always a bad investment for the person who buys it, and so I don't like believing in that. All right, where are we, bud? Back to Pittsburgh. My wife is kicking my tool museum outside. Is there anything I can do to keep out the rust? Wow. No. Now, as soon as you lose the conditioned space, you lose control over the relative humidity, right? So the only thing you could do is you can put every one of your tools in a really thick plastic bag, vacuum out the air and seal it up, and then put it in storage. That's it. All right. Other than that, you're done. And do it before it gets cold, or there'll be condensation inside the bag when you do it. Yeah, that sucks. Man, oh man, oh man. I mean, you could always make your shed so that it has a vapor barrier on the ground level and it has like actual doors and windows, and you can manage it a little bit, but without a heat source, you can't manage relative humidity. You're done. Okay. Buy some WD-40. You're going to need it. All right. Did
you get Chana's question there?
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Chana, I'd like to put floating floor in my bathroom. Good. Got a few questions. Yes. All the lower walls are tiles. Ooh, how do I seal cover the edges? There's a very deep and little tall slab doorstep. Okay, so I get it. You've got a tile bathroom and you want to put in a floating floor and you don't know how to finish up against a tile wall, and you've got a tile sill, like a slab, like a marble sill at the threshold of the door. Wow. I would say that the best thing that you could do is you can install the floor, and then you could put on actual baseboard in that room. But instead of using nails, you can use an adhesive. It is called No More Nails adhesive. And you snake it on the board and you press it in place, okay? And then you just add a silicone bead of caulking on the top from the tile to the baseboard. But paint the baseboards first. And then you can install it. And that'll look very, very natural, okay? That'll look like you tiled it and then you'll get the right look. As for the transition right at the door, don't worry about it. Leave it there, okay? Just make sure that you got a nice clean edge that goes right up against it and put a silicone bead on that. Because it's a different material, there might be expansion, contraction, and gap issues. Using silicone there, it'll stretch and seal and keep everything clean and tidy. I think you're going to get a good result, and that'll help you accomplish your goal. Next. Do contractors need to pull permits for home wiring? Yep. And if they didn't, yep, they lose their license for being an electrician. And if they're not a licensed electrician, depending on the jurisdiction, they're not allowed to do wiring anyway. And then they get in trouble with the law. So, yes, even electricians have to pull permits. Okay? There's no rule around that. I don't think there's any jurisdiction. And if you're an electrician, you know that I'm wrong, then let me know. But to the best of my knowledge, there's no jurisdiction in all of North America that allows an electrician to do wiring without pulling a permit. Period. And it's as simple as making a phone call. It's not like you got to go down to an office and stand in line with 300 electricians and stand there like a passport office. You make a bloody phone call, right? So it's not like pulling a permit is hard. So there's no excuse for not having one. All right. I'll be showing my wife this video. Thank you for forgiveness. You guys are awesome. Oh, man. Okay. Man, that coffee's good. I have a large crack in my drywall ceiling, and it is sagging just a bit. Can I just use a 2x4 and a hydraulic jack to lift it back up and rescrew it to secure it? The crack is as long as the room. Okay, so Nicholas, generally speaking, we get a crack like that is one of two reasons. One, you have a major structural failure in your ceiling, and that needs to be looked at. Two, it's the joint of the drywall, and you've had a little bit of movement. It's not a big deal. Now, if it's come loose and right, or it's cracked because the I gotta say this. There's another option. If you have a house, I don't know the age of your house. Here's the problem. If you got a house and it had too many years without air conditioning, or depending where you live, not enough humidity control, we'll call it, okay? The drywall can absorb moisture constantly. And if it can't release it again, it doesn't dry out. And then it gets heavy and it pops off the head of the screw. Over time, that little sag can develop a little hairline crack because the paper starts to break. So then time goes on, and then you get to a point where you finally have humidity control or something, right? And then you don't really notice it, but because it's sagging and it's sitting and waiting, the crack develops over time. Moving on. The way you fix it is this. You gotta sag. Go upstairs. If it's an attic, it's easy because you go up and you can open up and you can see what's going on. Okay? If it's not an attic and it's just like a first to second floor, what you do is you take your stud finder on a good part of the ceiling and you find out where are the joists running, or is it strapped? Where is the wood supposed to be? Okay? And then you draw a pencil line or a chalk line of where the wood should be. Then you take a drill and you drill little tiny holes every 6 or 8 inches. All right. And then you take spray foam and you put it in every one of those holes. And then you do the jack on the 2x4 and you lift it right into place with the adhesive. And you leave that until the next day. Then you can come back and add a couple screws for good measure. Okay. But that will definitely glue it in place. And then the screws are for good measure. If all you do is push it back up and then screw it in, it's going to pop right off those screw holes again, okay? Because the drywall is now formed to the new contour of being saggy. It takes time to train it to go back. It's like changing a hairstyle, right? When your hair is short, it's really hard to retrain your hair. It's the same thing, all right? Hopefully that helps without being too weird about the hair. All right. Jake has got a question. Hopefully it isn't a hair question. Can I put a cold air return directly on my return sheet metal? I furnish as a basement hallway, not behind house. Yeah, no. If you want to add a cold air return to your ductwork, yeah, cut it in and drop it in. No big deal. You can add as much cold air return as you like. There's really no science about cold air return. except that every time you add more cold air return to your system, the less pull it has. Okay, so if you don't have one in your basement, then add one. It'll change your world. Okay, cool. Mike has a 1953 brick ranch in North Carolina. Congratulations, Mike. Sounds lovely. The question is general. How detailed do plans need to be when pulling building, plumbing, electrical for bathroom reno? Do you need professional drawings? Heck no. Mike, if you're in North Carolina, the rules are a little bit laxed and in favor of homeowners. So all you got to do is this. Contact the building official in the office. I just did this because I bought a little place down in Florida. We're going to do some work on it. And I wanted to find out what the rules are, right? In case I had to become a licensed general contractor in Florida. I don't know. Anyway, turns out that, no, I'm fine because I'm a homeowner. So I think you're good too. Just contact them and say, this is what my plan is. What do you need from me? And they might just take a piece of paper and hand draw a picture of your bathroom now and what it's going to look like when you're done. And the biggest issue for them is, are you moving the plumbing fixtures to new locations? And electrical, yeah, boom, boom, boom. It's not a big deal. Anything structural or mechanical that's changing position or function, you're going to want to detail it in your plan. And then what they're going to do is they say, okay, so here you go. When you get all those changes made, before you close the floor and the wall, which is the key, because that's what inspections are for, to make sure before you close that everything's done right. Then you call for the inspector, and they'll give you a permit. It'll say for electrical, you call this guy. For structure and plumbing, you call this guy, and so on and so on. They'll come over, they'll take a look, and they'll do what they said to me. They'll say, hey, yeah, close, but not quite. Here's what you got to do to fix this, this, and this. You can make those adjustments. And if they want to come back, they can, or if they want to send you a picture, you can. It's that simple. Don't be intimidated, okay? Because if you're going to do a new system like a bathroom and you don't get a permit, you go to sell your house, first thing the guy's going to say is, hey, where's the permit for this? I don't have one. Well, instead of $325, I'm going to offer you $285. You're screwed, okay? So much for investing in your home, right? So get it done. I have seen renovations take place based on drawing on a napkin. Just saying. And that's not hearsay. Literally a napkin. It was at lunch in a restaurant. It's a small district. Sometimes it's like, hey, what do you think of this? Yeah, I'll file that. He just put it in the photocopier and there it goes, done. Good. Life is good. All right. Risky painting is back. Okay. $1 million question. Jeff, Home Depot or Home Hardware? Home Hardware. And I'll tell you why. Because every one of these home hardware stores is run by someone who's local in your neighborhood. Shop local. All right. And they have better paint. For sure. Now, where are we here? Benjamin Davis. Speaking of Benjamin, done with it. First coat of mud. Okay, you're done with the first coat of mud. Your drywall corners with the biggest learning curve. How do I clean up the corners for second coat? Yeah, that's easy. Generally speaking, take a 4-inch knife and scrape all the ridges off. And if there's too much mud, like just take a 2-foot level and put it on there and see. If you got too much mud, just sand it off. Piece of cake. Don't sweat it. All right. You can even use a 50 or 80 grit for if you got too much mud and you want to create a void to fill. Piece of cake, man. No worries, Ben. You're going to be just fine. Okay. Here we go. Pittsburgh again. Is there a slope at which you recommend switching from perforated pipe to solid for French drain outside? Yeah, the perforated is basically for flat or 1 to 2 degrees tops, right? Once you get a slope bigger than that, then there's no reason to have perforations to let water in because it's not going to come in. It's just running downhill. So you can go to solid. All right. And that works fine. Okay. Shauna says, my house was built in 1960. Is there asbestos in the wall, paper, and plaster? I'm feeling yes. It's about how much, all right? When in doubt with asbestos, okay, because there's no hard, fast rule. Just have it tested, guys. Just contact the asbestos testing people. Google search your local area. They'll tell you what to do. They'll just want a chunk in a plastic bag, mail it off. They'll get you the results. Generally speaking, most jurisdictions, it's a free service or very nominal fee. It's better to know than not, okay? And then Like, are you going to encapsulate it? Are you going to just paint over it? Are you going to drywall over it? Or are you going to paint oil and then skim coat over top? You know, there's a lot of different options for encapsulating old asbestos without having to take it all off. And so don't let it bother you if you have it, but you need to know. Right? Fish wire and rewire your house and stuff, but you can be wearing the right safety gear and maybe ventilation to the outside. Do I still recommend Sonopan, not pad, Sonopan for sound insulation? You're already using Roxol, Resilient Channel, and Type X drywall. Okay. Well, if you're already using Roxol and Resilient Channel, then you don't need it. All right? There's nothing wrong with that. That's a perfectly good assembly. I'm just saying Sonopan eliminates the need for Resilient Channel and increases your sound protection. But, yeah, no worries. I would say Roxol, Sonopan, and one layer of Type X is great. It's probably equivalent to Roxol, your channel, and then 2 layers of drywall. That's all. So there's nothing wrong with your build. This Sonopan, I just love it because it insulates over all the floor joists, and solid wood does transfer sound. So it's just a nice upgrade. All right. Are we actually looking for questions?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm trying to go back in time.
How are we doing here? Well, it's 6:12. Well, you know, I'm up to date on a lot of questions. I've answered a lot of questions this last week, man. Maybe there's just nobody left with a question out there. Who knows?
Divide and conquer.
Divide and conquer. I love it. All right. Well, now's your time. If you have a question and you want to get an answer, jump on in there, guys. This is great. Look at that. I don't even know if it's worth going back. Let's just stay current. Stay current.
Here we go.
Yeah. Okay. So,
That's nice.
boom. Tony,
That's nice.
big thanks. Okay, so you're removing old drywall. Yeah, right? I know. It's crazy. Sometimes you learn a trick along your way, and it's like, wow, if everybody knew this, how many thousands of man hours would we save on people's labor every year?
Right.
It's just crazy. It's the equivalent to like when I watch HGTV, and every single one of those shows is somebody wearing designer clothes with a sledgehammer in their hands, and it just makes you want to puke. It's like, really? Sledgehammers? Just once. I want to see someone hit a wall with a sledgehammer and it busts a water pipe and sprays all over their face. Just once. Because that's what happens in real life. All right. Melanie's got her 1980s house in Ottawa. Wow. I got to go back to that. I didn't get the question.
Sorry,
Thank you. Some original tape joints are peeling. Yes. Melanie, thank you for asking that. Okay. You're going to love this, Mel. This is great. You excited? Here it comes. In 1980, 1981, and parts of 1982, CGC made really lousy mud. They had a manufacturing defect in their process, and it caused thousands and thousands and thousands of homes to have tape peeling. You're just another one of their victims. Yep, that's all it is. And it's exciting too because the 1980s house usually has texture on the ceiling, and so it is a real pain in the ass to fix, isn't it? It's not really a humidity issue as much as it was a mud issue. Most houses had air conditioning back in the 80s up in this region. And if they didn't, they have it now. But yeah, it was a mud issue. We had this phenomenon all over. So a lot of people that have houses from 1980 to 82 have this issue. And it's like just lifting up at the edge, right? Just enough. A little crack and a little lift. It just didn't bond long term. I know. It drives you nuts. And the only way to fix it, believe it or not, is to retape. Now you can cheat. You can take like a needle, like a syringe, right? And you can put adhesive, and then you can press the tape back into the adhesive. And then on the ceiling, if it happens and you got old cracks, then you can take like latex caulking, and you can run your thumb against the texture, and you can put that on. And then you can paint it all in. And there are things you can do to doctor the tape back on. But generally speaking, it needs to be redone. And it's really a pain in the ass. Yep, 6:12, and I'm drinking coffee. Yep. All right, what do we got here? We got some new members. Eduardo. Cheers, Muddy. Welcome to the Money in the Bank. And we got Sheldon. Sheldon? Really? Is it that, Sheldon? No? The TV show?
From the Big Bang Theory.
We will find out in just a minute. Let's see. The question will tell you everything you need to know.
Ask him a physics question.
Well, yeah, that's not even fair. It's got to be quantum physics. All right. Cheers, guys. Hey, if you got questions, jump in here and let us know. We'd love to help you out. John has got a question here. He's got a house with wood Dutch lap siding and want to put a hardy board siding on. Do I need to remove the wood siding? Here's the thing. If you don't, you're making it really difficult to install that new hardy board siding, like really hard. So then you're going to have to strap it. And then you're going to create a mouse highway behind your siding. So I would take it off. You have an opportunity here right now to find out, what's behind that Dutch lap siding? Do you have weatherproofing, right? What's the condition of the wall behind the Dutch lap siding? How old is your house? Are there areas where rodents have already got access that you don't know about yet? There's so much you can learn about your house by removing the facade. And if it has no intrinsic value anymore, get rid of it. Get the weight off your building. I'm a big fan of starting over. Okay. Where are we here? Sheldon, the beam through my basement is 4.5 inches wide. 2x4 wall was built on the bottom to separate a room. There's 1/2 to 3/4 of wood sticking into the room. How can this be finished? I was asked this just the other day by somebody else. Here's the thing. It shouldn't be a 2x4 wall. You know, whenever you guys are building a wall underneath a beam, understand the beam is wider than the finish of drywall and wood. Go to a 2x6, okay? Just do it. They make 2x6 door jams. It's not a problem, and it solves all these problems from even happening. Because at the end of the day, a 2x4 is 3.5. You get drywall, and unless that wall is built dead center on that beam, you're in trouble. You're going to have metal sticking out everywhere. Here's the thing, Sheldon. If you got 1/2 inch to 3/4 of the wood sticking into the room of the wood or the beam, either way.
Sorry. There we go.
If you want to fix situations where the wall and the ceiling don't line up, 1/2 inch to 3/4 of the wood sticking into the room. Okay, I need to see a picture to know exactly, but here's the thing. It's a basement. Treat it like one, okay? Don't freak out. If you need to build little boxes, like a little soffit box to hide imperfections, you can do that and make it look very intentional. Sometimes the easiest way to solve something really ugly and obvious is to just make a soffit box around the room, throw in a few pot lights, and then all of a sudden you're a drywall god, right? Because it looks intentional. It looks like you created this scallop ceiling effect for a reason, and it's just to hide something ugly. The other thing you can do is you can buy crown molding, and you can finish off with crown molding and cover some huge gaps. Okay, so there's 2 great ways right there that'll not show the imperfection. The other thing is you can, but it's not the metal, it's the wood. Yeah. Well, a 1/2 inch of wood sticking in the room is easy. You can just drywall that gap. You know, you can figure that one out. The beam has got a big gap in the back of it. So what you can do is you can stick wood in the beam to fill it as a filler with some PL Premium, shove it in place, and then you've got a surface you can install your drywall to. All right? So hopefully that helps. If not, hit me up in the comment section, in the forum, and send me a picture so I can understand better, because there's a few other tricks up my sleeve. But I don't think that's particular to your situation. All right. Yeah, the Jay Flywheel says, thanks for continuing to hold these. Continuing, we're just getting started. Yeah, dude, I love this, right? This the whole point of the membership program is to help people who are renovating their house get get answers to questions that aren't in the videos, because it's going to take us another 10 years or more to cover all the information. And then by then there'll be new questions and new products and new information to cover. And so we'll just keep on doing it. I'm more than happy to help, man. This is Michael's first live show, everybody. It's going to replace an exterior door. Nice. The lower portion of the frame is rotten. Not surprised. Is fixing that really as easy as cutting out the rotten wood and replacing with pressure treated? Okay. Exterior doors have all one thing in common. In a lot of cases, if it's rotten out, it's because you don't have enough moisture protection from weather events. And the water gets around the frame and it's rotting out from where it stops and it gets trapped at the bottom, right? So it's rotting bottom up. So if the bottom of your door is rotten, so is the subfloor on the floor underneath it. Unless you're on a slab. If you're on slab, you're fine. Yeah, rip it out, sweep it up, and put in a new one. Great. But if you're on wood frame construction, then you're going to also need to replace at least that 4 or 5 inch piece of the OSB or the subfloor that's sitting on the floor joist. Okay, so consider that before you start your project. All right. If you've got a basement, that exterior door is going to have subfloor issues. So go to Home Depot and buy a 2 by 4 foot panel of 5/8 OSB. And that is the standard size for subfloor for the last, 80 and 90 years in most regions. Some houses at 1/2 inch, that's a little sketchy, but you'll be okay with that. All right. And then you'll be ready to replace that at the same time. There's nothing worse than ripping out something old and going, oh crap, there's more work than I thought. And then having to go back to the store because then your house has got no door on it. So be prepared by having a little piece of OSB with you. And if you don't need it, you just take it back and return it to the store later. All right. Cheers. Okay. SBRKHD is planning to return. Whoa, what happened there? He's planning to return the LVP on top of, you're going to use LVP, luxury vinyl plank on top of the tile floor in the basement. Okay. There's noticeable slope in certain areas. Would self-leveling underlayment be enough? Does it need any other layer before I put LVP? That all depends. Again, use the garbage bag test, okay? Because tile isn't a moisture barrier. And so you want to know. Tile is not affected by moisture coming through the concrete floor. It just transmits it right on through, so it doesn't matter. But if you're going to put and trap moisture, you want to know. Okay, and the slope, noticeable. What is noticeable? That's so subjective. Help me help you. You can have a 1/4 inch slope, okay, every 4 feet, and that seems noticeable if you have a wide open basement. But the flooring is designed to absorb that. Okay, there are variances. So the flooring that you buy, check the data on it. It'll tell you what kind of slope you're able to have, and then you can take a measuring ruler or some kind of level, and you can check your slope to see if you're within the allowable for that product. Then you can determine if you need to add some leveler. Okay. But yeah, that's the best way to go about it. Okay. Woo! Welcome to the membership LKTN. I don't even know what that means. That's fine. You can do you. And cheers to Eric for joining the membership program. And Christina joins. Cheers. All right, let's go back into these questions. We got some work to do here. I am dragging my butt now. Maybe I should roll up a little bit to where those other guys joined in. See if they got questions right away. Okay, right underneath there. Is it worth hiring someone to clean shower grout, or is there a DIY option that is doable? Gugon has a grout cleaner. I've read that vinegar can work. Yeah, you'd be surprised how much of the dirty grout is just some organics that got trapped. Yeah, bleach. I would not hire anybody to clean something in my house, except my house. I do have a cleaner come in every couple of weeks. But that's just because my wife isn't crazy busy helping deal with some medical issues with her family. But yeah, no, you can definitely clean it. This is DIY. Yes. It's the beam sticking into the room, said Sheldon. Okay, definitely. Crown molding, problem solved. Okay, don't even think about it. Next, Eduardo. I built the shed on an existing slab. You sheathed it with OSB and put Tyvek over it. Haven't done the siding yet and have some project board in there and it's getting moldy. Is it from not being enclosed? No, it's because the existing slab doesn't have a vapor barrier on it underneath. So ground moisture is coming through the slab and going into your board, and then the board is going moldy. That's what's going on, okay? So the only way that you can store things in that shed is A, you put in some sort of a vapor barrier, like luxury vinyl plank would work perfect, okay? Or a sheet of vinyl flooring. Home Depot sells 7x9 sheets of vinyl for like $70, like a roll. You just roll it out, stick it in, cut it to fit. But you need a vapor barrier. You got to have something that stops the transfer of moisture from the concrete into your products, okay? And don't consider paint because that'll end up lifting and bubbling and you'll be right back where you started, and it's a waste of money. But vinyl is a great solution, all right? Eric, what's a recommendation when replacing a Federal Pacific electrical panel? Something that's in stock. And that's my advice right now is whatever's in stock to solve your problem. Because we still have supply chains of electrical components. So there's no good, better, best. Find what's available, okay? And just be happy that it's modern. Anything modern is better than anything from 40 years ago. End of the discussion, all right? So don't be too panicking about which product it is. I like a stab lock system, okay? There's lots of breakers that you just rock and push into place. Those are great. They're easy to manage. They're easy to do yourself. But, there's more than one brand that's doing that right now. So, yeah. If you have an electrician helping you, ask them to get whatever's in stock. And if you don't, go down to your local hardware store and see, do they have all the components that you need? Because there's no sense switching over to a panel if you can't get a 40 amp breaker for your stove, right? Like if they're not, you don't want to not be able to cook. So double check your supply. And if you make sure you got a list of everything you need and then go shopping. And if you can't buy it all together now, don't assume it's in stock next week. That's my advice, because it could be 6 months. The world is that crazy right now. Robert says, what about vinyl siding? Remove the clapboards, 1956 house, Jasper, Texas. Robert siding? Yeah, I don't have a problem with vinyl siding. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not sure where the context of the question is, but if you want to put it on vinyl siding, do it. But buy a high-grade vinyl. Don't buy a cheap one. There's like 3 or 4 different thicknesses of vinyl, okay? So make sure you get a good quality vinyl, because the thin stuff, it just warps like you wouldn't believe in the heat, okay? It's just really dangerous. That's going to cause you all kinds of trouble. Mike, in addition to Rewire you mentioned earlier, any other projects you would generally recommend for homeowners of the 1950s or earlier houses? Yeah. Pull out all your copper pipes and replace them with something modern. Okay. It's not necessary. And if you don't, somebody else might sneak in while you're on holidays and do it for you. Copper is valuable. You can always take it back to the store and get your money. Joking aside, Mike, outside of wiring, there's really nothing in the 1950s home that's bad. The water supply lines, okay, are probably your only other issue. Copper water supply lines over time, it does tend to corrode. And there's a residential and a commercial grade quality. So the residential is really thin. So you might want to consider, if you're closing up your walls, you replace your copper. Just buy another 50 years of copper lifespan. You don't have to upgrade to PEX or anything, but just switch out your copper so you don't have any risk of pinholes developing in your finished work down the road. Okay. Okay. Boom, 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 boom. Does a pinhole leak in copper pipe indicate that the pipe wall is slowly being eroded or made debris in the water? It could be a couple of different things. It could be somebody did a really lousy job of torching on a joint and they just melted the living bejeebers out of the copper, made it so thin. Okay. So if you got a pinhole, it's a good indication that your copper is getting old and that there's a risk of that occurring in other locations. So do that, what you want with that information. Yinzer says he's coming up on winter. Got it. What's your temperature drop? Dead month for pouring concrete outside. 5 degrees, 24 hours. That's my personal feeling. There's guys that work below that, but there's different kinds of concrete. Okay, so if you're just buying the stuff at the local hardware store, you don't want to get below 5 degrees while it's setting up, okay? Overnight. And if there's a concrete guy who's got a different opinion, please jump in and answer that question. I don't do a lot of concrete in the fall. Yeah, I generally take stuff like that and kind of work that into seasons, because where I live in the fall, to be honest with you, it's like always raining. So concrete just sucks if it's always raining. You can't ever organize a day. So we generally do that in the summer. Tony's got a 1920s 800 square foot house with asbestos inside. Sure. Outside, old wiring, plumbing, roof, bad too. What point do we bulldoze versus bring the studs and renovation? Seattle, Washington. Okay, first of all, you're in Seattle, Washington, so your house is worth saving. Right? Like, it's only 800 square feet. So if you peel off all of the walls and you change all of the plumbing and all the wiring and you change the roof, yeah, that's like a renovation. So how much does that cost, Tony? And then how much is the house worth when you're finished? Versus, like, is 800 square feet enough space? Like, it's a cost benefit analysis. It's just simple math. So you gotta put them on a balance sheet and say, what's better? End of the day, you're in Seattle, so it's easy for you to increase your slab size and make a bigger house, if that's what you want to do. But remember, there's different rules for new construction versus renovation. and different licensing. So check with your state to see what you got to be in order to do what. And that might answer the question for you. Okay, Mushiki's in the Greater Toronto area. If you leave the basement floor unfinished / painted, will I be losing a lot of heat? No, not at all. There is no heat loss through the floor in a basement. The ground in the basement is 10 degrees in our scale, below the concrete, and just above the concrete. So there's no heat loss there. It's not an issue. Do not even consider that. Okay, you'll lose more heat going outside once in the wintertime than you will all winter through the concrete and the floor. So don't worry about it. Not an issue. Okay, 2015 house, ceiling, drywall attached to the joist, no strapping. Okay, yeah. Best way to install pot lights. Run wiring without tearing out the entire ceiling. If you have an attic, that's your answer. If you don't want to rip out the entire ceiling, then the only other way you can do it is you can drill a hole for a pot light, and then you can drill the hole to run the wire, but you can only go one cavity at a time, right? So you're going to have a bunch of holes in your ceiling just for the purpose of fishing wire, and then you can patch all those holes later. But you're drilling blind, right? So every time you drill through, you don't know what's on the other side of that joist. So make sure you drill both holes up so you can inspect the joist from both sides. Then you can feel free to drill a hole through the joist to run the wire through. And generally speaking, you can run lights down a joist cavity and then skip over a couple, and you only have 2 extra holes to patch. Not a real big deal, but at the end of the day, that's really the only option. All right, Ed, what leveling compound do you suggest for leveling an MDF floor? I don't. You have to lift the MDF. That's an addition. That's just buildup. That's a buildup in order to put a some kind of a floating floor to meet the height of a hardwood floor that's on the same subfloor. So you don't put leveler on MDF. You rip the MDF out. It's just nailed down, okay? And then you work from there, bud. Cheers. Door sill deck flexes down 1/4 inch when you step on it. Is there an easy fix for this? Yeah, sure. Put in some shims and spray foam. You might even be able to do it from inside. Just pull the quarter round off and you should be able to see the gap. But you definitely want to get something in there because movement is your enemy. Movement means there's no insulation too. That can be a problem. And I mean, some bugs and stuff can get in the house. That sucks. Jeff, what tool organizer system do you use besides the 3 red buckets? Yeah, I own 3 of everything. So I can always find one. I'll be honest. I am not organized. That's not my thing. I literally own 3 of everything. I got 3 chop saws. I got 3 skill saws. I got 3 reciprocators. I got 3 nailers. I got 3 hammers. I got at least 6 tapes. That's my organization. Cover my entire job site with tools. So I'm always tripping on them so I can always find what I'm looking for. That's about as good as it gets for me. Oh my goodness. I like melt crates. That helps. You can throw all your crap in one. Yep, that's me. I keep my job site clean, and that helps keep me organized. As long as it's clean, you won't lose your stuff, and then you're organized. You can find stuff, but that's really the key. All right, cheers, John. Member for 6 months. Wow, that's awesome, man. Rejoining. Okay, the evil milkshake. 23-year-old ranch over an unfinished something or other that I can no longer eat. Let me see. Can we go back up there for a little bit? Yep. Got it. CPVC, good. Flow guard gold, okay. Change the PEX before finishing the basement. Or leave it. Planning to keep the house for around 10 years. Okay. If you have a CPVC flow guard gold, you do not need to upgrade your plumbing. Just because it's new doesn't make it any better. Nothing wrong with what you got. I wouldn't spend 10 cents on that. And it's only a 23-year-old house, right? I wouldn't even look at upgrading plumbing until it's like at least 50 years old. That's what I'm looking at. Especially when you're only looking for another 10 years from yourself. Bah, walk away. Save your money. All right? Go for dinner. Enjoy yourself. All right. Eduardo, sorry. What did you say I could get at Home Depot for moisture barrier for my shed? Oh, vinyl flooring. They actually make a sheet vinyl. So you just take it and you drop it in your shed and then you cut to fit the hole. Now you got a vapor barrier between the floor, the concrete, and everything you put on it. So moisture won't transfer through. Problem solved. Cheers. All right. Where the heck are we?
We got a lot going on here.
We do.
We had a big flurry of questions.
Okay.
And I went to the bottom. Here we go. Basement question.
Oh, I need to build a wall in a basement. Okay. Poe, it will be just under the wood beam that supports the house. Got it? Can I nail my framing for the wall directly into the support wood beam? Sure you can, but there's an easier way. You can make the wall so that it has a little bit of a gap and then just throw in a couple of shims and a screw. Okay? Because you're not relying on that wall to hold the house up. And you don't compromise the beam by adding fasteners. So you have no concern. All right? So you don't have to make it all snug as a bug in a rug. Okay? You can make it so you can lift it in easily, add a couple shims and throw in a screw and walk away and be happy with it. All right? Hopefully that helps. Thoughts on rain screen with furring strips over reno of an 1870 house with closed foam insulation. 1870 house with closed foam insulation, rain screen with furring strips. Okay. I need to know what the rest of your assembly is before I can have a thought. What's on your interior and what are you finishing with? Okay, Thomas, get back to me. Next.
We're going back in town.
Oh, okay. I like this question from Joe. I'll get to Robert in a second. Joe says, to what extent does this hold true? Modern stuff being better than old and outdated versus they don't make them like they used to. Okay. Yeah, I got an opinion on that. Why not? I'll give it to you. Lots of modern stuff in the history of mankind has proven to be a bad idea. Right? It's called experimenting. We're practicing in the building science. So they don't make them like they used to really refers to if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yeah, there really is no rule. Sometimes it's like, yeah, well, you know, like, how about this? We don't, the people working on the job site don't have the integrity that they used to. Yeah, that's pretty much where I'm thinking. As far as the modern stuff being made better than old, whatever, they're just always trying to make things so they install faster, right? And we learn more about science and we can solve problems we've made in the past. I don't think there's a whole lot of anything to talk about there. Robert, finishing a basement in end unit townhome. Using rigid foam framing and bat vapor barrier on the drywall. Okay, how to finish the shared wall. Doesn't need the 2-inch foam since it's a shared wall, right? No, it doesn't need the 2-inch rigid foam since it's a shared wall. You are correct. Okay, so yeah, you just got to throw a little bit of framing on there. And here's the thing. You only need to frame that wall if you need to put electrical in that wall. Depends how long that wall is. If it's less than 10 feet, you can have a plug on the other walls and you don't even have to frame it. You could just literally glue your drywall right to the brick, right to the concrete. Just like we would rigid foam. You use the dollop technique and you just slap it up there, okay? And that is a great way to solve some problems if you got the room to do it. It'll save you a couple $100 worth of lumber, that's for sure. Linda's in the house. Cheers, Linda. All right, let's go down. Or maybe not. Or I don't know. All right. Oh, I'm looking to make a conditioned attic space for my 1910 house. I need to put a dimple mat between the shiplap roof deck and the closed spray foam to allow the wood to breathe, dry out if it gets wet. Yeah, no. No, Stephen, I wouldn't expect your roof to get that wet. The foam generally protects you from most bulk water. And so any wood that gets wet is in contact with other wood and or airspace that'll eventually dry it out. Your biggest concern if you're going to spray foam your deck is your roof deck plywood or is it all dimensional lumber ripped down like 1x10s? If it's not a plywood roof, it hasn't been upgraded. I wouldn't spray foam that yet. I would upgrade your roof first before you spray foam. Okay? At least pull your roof off and add plywood. And then put on a decent membrane. And being a 1910 house, it's going to be like this. They have new membranes for walking on that are also like water barriers. And you won't have any water issue at all in the roof in the future. So make sure that you've got a modern roof and you're not sticking new spray foam into an attic space on a 1910 house on a roof that's 30 years old. That's my advice. Okay? Stephen also says he lives on the Michigan-Ohio border. A little further down, dude. Oh, Julian sending some love. Cheers, buddy.
Did you see how long he's been a member?
Yeah, 16 months. I know it's pretty awesome, eh? Julian's been around for like ever and a day. How old is our membership program? I'm starting to feel old.
Is it 16 months?
Holy cow, it's at least 16 months old, eh? On the count of 3, say we love you, Jeff. That's adorable. All right. Thanks, everybody. That's fun. But Steven says he lives on the Michigan-Ohio border. Michigan, Ohio. Yeah, got that one. Matt Risinger recommended a dimple mat for Dorkin. Yeah. I get it. Matt recommends all kinds of products. But this isn't Matt's show. Last time I checked, I'm not getting paid to recommend any products. So you do with that what you want. All right. I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm just saying there's way too much to involve in building science to throw in a comment on a live chat like this and expect me to give you an intelligent answer about the building science of your home. Not when it's 1910. Now, honestly, Stephen, if you want to talk about building science with your house, get in the forum, send me pictures, send me details. Let me know everything that's going on with the assembly, because the answer to a problem with building science is everything going inside and outside. Okay? And it's not just one answer or one product. There's no such thing as this product solves all the problems. Every product that solves a problem also causes one. It's all about the assembly as a whole. Okay? And that's the only thing I can say. That's how we work. So building science isn't like, it's not a pill. It's not a magic pill. It's not like, ooh, this new magic pill solves your problems. No, it's all about health, diet, nutrition, all that stuff. I mean, it's the whole assembly. And I'm happy to comment on your whole assembly if you want to have questions on that. Jeff, we have roots in the cast iron pipes under the slab. Oh, no. Is it worth trenching the slab in the closet floor to do inversion liner, or should I be adding a pull-in place liner? Everyone says their product's the best. Okay, so here's the best thing about roots. You can blow them out with water pressure hose. And honestly, if you have roots under the slab, man, where's your tree? Like right against your house? That's incredible. I'd solve the tree problem before I'd even worry about the root problem. But listen, I don't think it's necessary to open up the floor. If you're going to clean it all out, that's great. Everybody says their product is the best for the liner. Yeah. Here's the other thing. If you blow out the roots and you solve the tree problem, there's no more tree trying to grow back into your pipe. So you don't have to buy their expensive liner products. Let me ask you this question too. When's the last time that pipe was blown clean? Right? Simple math. If you have to take out the plumber and every 5 years you got to give him $1,000 to pressure wash that line and clean it all out, that's expensive over time. But if he hasn't been there for 25 years, I'll see you in 25 years, Mr. Plumber. I ain't spending a dime on upgrading my system. And that's it for me on that one. All right. There we go, Thomas. Main man, he's in Minnesota. 4-season climate. He's got new siding. It's open, smart side, over original 3/4-inch wood. Okay. With closed cell foam on all inside walls. Well, that's a nice upgrade. Rain screen or no rain screen with furring strips. There you go. There you have it. If you're using furring strips, you don't necessarily need a rain screen. What you need is weather protection. Okay, so like Tyvek would work great for you. If you're not using furring strips, you need a rain screen. Okay, because that provides the space where any water that gets in behind your new smart siding can actually drain out the bottom. All right. But here's the other thing. If you have an installer that you're hiring to do that project, follow their recommendation because it's their warranty. And if you don't, and you make them do something contrary to what they give you a warranty on, they won't give you the warranty. And at the end of the day, I'd rather pay for some furring strips and a warranty if they're not going to give me one without it. All right. Cheers. The other thing you can do is you can go on the website for the company selling the rain screen, and they're going to have a recommended installation. So if the company recommends something, and that can be wrong. My God, I can be wrong. But if the company is making a recommendation, that's based on their latest consumer survey information and data collected from on-site warranty claims. That is more important than anybody else's opinion. So feel free to research the product that they're talking about or that you're looking at and get it direct from their website too, because they'll be able to give you an assembly for their product and not just the recommended installation. They'll give you the wall assembly information. Cheers. And that goes for everything, right? To hell with what somebody on a live show says. Michael Lapointe, South Shore. Is that Montreal?
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. 1978. Cool. Installing dry core subfloor and basement. Nice. We'll add a curbless shower down the road. How to manage the slope. Forgo dry core and shower and sloped mud bed directly on slab. Yes, exactly. And from the beginning, okay? Map out where the shower is going to go and don't put your subfloor there. You don't need it. You're not putting anything on top of it. You're sure not going to put a shower on top of that subfloor. So just chalk line it out on the floor and go. You're rocking. All right. Driving home, listening in. Cheers, Mary. That's awesome. Oh, you got to love technology, eh? All right. Quiet quitters. That's my God. That's funny. 1950s house has 3/4 tongue and groove roof decking. That's about normal. Worth replacing with plywood or leave it alone, provided it's in good shape when the time comes to do new shingles. I'll put it to you this way. I can't comment on the condition of the wood, but I've seen houses that are 1890 that still have the 1x10s and they're still in great shape. So now bear this in mind. Roofers also charge more money for roofing on top of that situation. Okay. So not updating the decking, and you can put it over top. You don't necessarily have to remove it, right? Have a conversation with your roofer, but it's not necessary to remove it. Roofers still do know how to do a roof deck with the old wood, and it's not going to be an issue. All right, where are we? Jeff, what project should you not do, even experienced DIYer? I don't do gas. Yeah, I don't do gas lines. What else do I don't do underpinning. Yeah. I don't do anything structural without an engineer report. That's about it. Everything else, you got to hire somebody. It might as well be you. I don't see the problem. All right. Cheers. Welcome to the membership program, Brendan. And welcome, Robert. Guys, getting in late, but you're getting in just in time. We got 12 minutes left. If you got questions, get them in here. We're going to try our best to get this. Why is this so hard to get a plumber to show up? Because plumbers work for the guy who's giving the most money. Right now, if you call a plumber and you're like, hey, I got a problem. Can you come over? He's like, no, I'm busy. He's waiting for you to say, what's your rate? And then he's waiting to say, like, he's waiting for you to negotiate for his time. So if you want a plumber, negotiate. I'll tell you right now, if you call up a plumber and said, I want to give you $30,000 to unclog my toilet, he'll be there in 10 minutes. Somewhere between that stupidity and not coming to your house, there's a place where you can maneuver him. But it's supply and demand right now, guys. So if you need a plumber, learn how to do plumbing. I'm just telling you, it's going to get worse, not better. Okay? Just, we all clear? It's going to get harder and harder and harder to get skilled trades to come to your house the longer we go. This is just starting. This retirement thing from people from the trades, it's just starting. And we got 10 to 12 years of this going on. It's going to get worse every year for the next 12 years. Do not think that this is a temporary thing related to COVID. Nope. This is a completely separate issue from COVID. This is called retirement. And the tradesmen are leaving. And they're moving to Florida. All of them. So if you need a plumber, you'll probably be able to find one in Florida. He'll probably be running a little gig economy for himself on the side. Okay, Christina says she lives in Michigan, just north of Detroit. 1953 house, just about it. Original siding is covered with vinyl. Okay. Should remove the vinyls, remove the original siding, and put vinyl back on. I'm concerned with pests. Yeah, see, that's the only really big issue there, isn't it? If you have layer on the outside and you've got decay and you just don't know what you got. Well, if you have a pest problem now, then it's probably a very valid concern. And generally speaking, you can do one side of a house at a time, give or take, except the corner. All right. Yeah. 1953. Man, we are getting, that is starting to get crazy. That's like 80, that's 70 years ago now, right? 70 years old on a house in a 4-season climate. There's a really good chance that you've got a road and highway going on. I would at least open it up. Here's what I would do. I would get that little red tool. okay, for vinyl siding, to unlock the siding on the bottom 2 rows. Take those 2 rows of siding off and do a physical inspection. Maybe cut out a piece of the wood. Check to see how soft all the wood is. Check in a place that's got a southern and a northern exposure, and it'll tell you what's going on with your home, okay? And if you do that and you're really happy with the quality of what's going on with the wood, you can reinstall that siding with that same tool again, okay? And just nail it back in place and lock the joint. But if you have rotten wood underneath your siding install, you want to know, because if it's soft enough that you can push a screwdriver through it, most eat that for lunch. They love it. Okay, and they will. And there ain't no stopping them. All right. Cheers, Brandon. Long time watcher. Cheers. Oh, I've got 9 minutes. I got to go rapid fire here, guys. Whew. Can you take a deep breath? Another sip of coffee?
Did you get Sheldon's fusion stone?
Sheldon has a question?
About fusion stone?
Yeah. Sheldon is at 1986, upgrading the exterior brick around the face of the garage. What are your thoughts on fusion stone? First of all, if you've got a red brick around your house, you can't take off the bottom part of the brick to install fusion stone because you have nothing left to support the weight of the brick. So that's the problem. But if around the garage you don't have red brick and it's like wood or some other facade and you want to add fusion stone there, then by all means go right ahead. If it's a 1986 exterior red brick and you want to add fusion stone, I would stain your brick first and paint the rest of your facade to maximize the whole modern color effect, to like upgrade the whole era of your home, okay? Because you're not going to find a fusion stone that looks good next to red brick. It's all modern color. And that's what I got to say about that. All right, here we go. Motivation Drive. 2001 house. Someone hid open hole in the basement concrete wall around 3-inch drain line behind insulation. How do I patch? You got a hole in your floor that's 3 inches wide. Here's how you patch it. Grab some newspaper, shove it in the hole, and then pour in some hydraulic cement. Done. Brandon LaPointe. Kiddo busted out one of the double panes on my slider. Yep. Practicing is fishing. I love it. Any recommendations for framing a slider and a converting to 36-inch standard door? Oh, yeah. Actually, if you're going to change out a slider and make it a man door, then what you do is you put in a double stud and you frame that door like a regular door, and then you fill the rest of that gap with more studs and exterior sheathing, and then add some Tyvek over that sheathing. You can even buy that stuff in a 3-foot little roll and just, right? But make sure that you're weatherproofing that whole thing. Make sure you're thinking about if any water gets in behind whatever you're putting on your facade, and make sure your facade is like weatherproof. Like I've seen people actually fill that gap with another interior door and then it just delaminates over a couple of years. So make sure you're using the proper exterior facade material. Something like a cedar tongue and a groove or something like that that could be painted would work great. Next, framing a basement wall, leaving an air gap plus Tyvek versus rigid foam and furring strip. Okay, my favorite is definitely the rigid foam with an airspace. Next, they show up, they don't give me a quote and don't come back. Or I get on a wait list for a month and they don't show up. Yep. Yeah, it's supply and demand. You gotta show them that you're serious about doing business, right? You're obviously not sending out the signals that make them confident that you're the kind of client they want, because you're not interviewing them, they're interviewing you. Okay, your job might not be big enough. You might not be driving the kind of car that they think relates to the kind of client that they're willing to do business with right now. Everybody's judging, right? It's not just you. They're not sitting there with nothing to do at home. They're judging you too. So, feel free to say, listen, what are you guys charging right now? Give me a chance to at least match your current quotes, right? Talk turkey right out of the gate. Don't be afraid of it. They're not begging for the business. If you're not talking money, they're not going to bother with it. Just saying. In these environments, okay, I show up at the door. I look at the project. I'm like, oh, that's a small project, whatever. The guy's nice and all, but he's driving a Corolla, not a BMW, not a Mercedes. Maybe he doesn't have the money. Whatever. And then you don't talk money to them. They think you have none. Right out of the gate. Just say, what are you guys charging for work right now? How do I get on this list for 6 months from now to get it done? Is it your current rate plus 10%? Can I get you booked if I had to pay that? Just talk like that. And if you're not prepared to pay that money, once they tell you what they're actually willing to charge, then you know what you got. You got a DIY project. That's the way it is. It's frustrating as all hell. And it's a little bit getting ripped off, but at the same time, you know, if there was only one doctor in the whole city, who do you think they're working for? All right. How do you feel as a pro about smart home tech? As far as planning rough electrical and whatnot, do you bother? Smart home tech. Yeah, I don't really bother. I'm not worried about it. I have this own feeling, Jake, that everything's going to be wireless. So until it's wireless, I don't give a rip because I'm buying yesterday's technology. Kiana Wilson, which type of mortar would you use when installing whole wall slab of tile on a tub surround? That all depends on the substrate. Oh my goodness gracious. If you're using a waterproofing system, you want to use non-modified cement. Okay. If you're not using a waterproofing system, you want to use modified cement. And that's the answer. Okay. Unfinished basement, builder insulation blanket nailed into concrete, buddy out of contractor framing against vapor barrier, moisture, and mold city behind that drywall. Okay. I think that's it. That's not a question. That's just, is that a question? No. But listen, if you got a basement with a blanket insulation, realize the only thing they're doing there is passing minimum code for installing insulation below the frost line. That's it. That ain't comfortable. And that ain't something you want to keep. Okay? Because it's right up against your stone. So throw that crap out. Put in a proper insulation. You can't turn something that's minimum code for protecting the mechanical system of the basement from a thermal invasion in the wintertime to comfortable living space. No, it's not. They're totally different issues. The only reason we have minimum code for basements is so that we aren't freezing the water lines and they're not blowing up in the wintertime. That's not minimum code for your comfort when you're sitting down watching your movie. Totally different. Okay. So throw that crap out. It was temporary when it went in and it's still temporary now. Anybody who's framing in front of that stuff is guilty of making crap. All right. All right. Next. Modern hippie. In the basement, do you put the flooring barrier / dimpling even under where the shower pan goes? Never. All your bathroom fixtures, shower pans or tubs should be directly onto your concrete. Next. 1,200 square foot ranch built in 1963. We will upgrade and resell in a couple of years. Yay. Water leaking between the gutter and the fascia everywhere. Gutters 10 foot and I'm a handyman, so replace the Home Depot gutters. Generally speaking, Robert, it's not a gutter issue. It is a roofing issue. The roofing shingles should be extended to the point where the water goes into the gutters, and your roofing probably cut too short. Yeah. There is a there's a metal that you can stick in maybe if it's not nailed too tight. Oh yeah, dude. If you replace your gutters, try lifting them up, get them closer to the edge of that roof, okay? So that you don't have that problem. I don't know. And it's probably a shingle issue, and you're not going to solve it by swapping out the gutters. So, yeah, I think you're looking at the wrong spot. Send me a picture, and I can give you a better recommendation, okay? It's hard to do this over this situation. Jason, how do you connect my vinyl to the stairs? Video coming. No, vinyl gets installed on stairs with adhesive, okay? That's simple. Just go to the hardware store and say, what vinyl do I need to install? No, what adhesive do I need to install the vinyl to my wood? And they'll give it to you. It's probably from a company called Roberts. And it works. Jordan LeBlanc, welcome to Money in the Bank. Hope you got a question. We got no time left. Okay, scroll. Is that the very bottom?
That's the very bottom.
All right. I'm going to hang out here, Jordan, for 30 seconds in case you're typing vigorously, trying to get a question in. And while we say goodbye to everybody else, Jason, if you're using stair caps, you got to definitely use adhesive. Stair nosings will roll if it's not adhesive then. So make sure you get the good stuff, okay? Guys, thanks a lot for coming out tonight. It is 7 o'clock. Do you know where your children are? I do. Well, 2 of them anyway. This has been awesome. Lots of fun. Great copy, Chris. Thank you. And if we didn't get to your questions or you want to follow up and you got more questions, hit up the forum. And if you're not a member, join. For the love of God, what are you waiting for? Whether you're working for yourself or fixing your own house or you're going to work for other people, this is the place to be to learn how to do it right and do it right the first time. Do it yourself. Save a lot of money. Cheers. We'll see you again soon.